well, we'll see if it's a lack of agenda. And we're live. It is. It is an interesting. We're doing crossover events. You know, we just like to mix it up here at Agile Ventures. We've got it's a BetaSaaSers AutoGraders client meeting and also the Atlantic Scrum. Just to make things interesting, I'm going to put the screen share on there. We've got Richard Ilson, who uses the AutoGraders as part of his Spock, which is sort of a small version of the MOOC, in his class at it's UNCC. It's University of North Carolina, Charlotte, isn't that right, Richard?
Correct.
Yes. And we've got also Christian, who does great work running the Euro Scrums, and who I don't often get to see, so that's pretty cool. As I'd mentioned on the list to the AutoGraders people, I didn't have any specific agenda for today. Did you have anything, Richard, to add to the agenda?
Not so much. I'm starting my advising my 3-week advising period, so I get hung up with that. I'll have a question if there's nothing else going on that is not as well. I'll wait.
well, that's what we're here. Yeah. Well, let's just check in with Christian. How are things going with you, Christian?
Good. Thanks. Just wanted to come by, say hello, see how things are doing.
Yeah. Oh, good to see you. Yeah. Indeed. They are going reasonably well. Actually, we've had a bit of an uptick in activity in Agile Ventures recently. I've got a lot of my students at Makers Academy doing Agile Ventures projects, working with local charities, and it's there's about 3 or 4 different projects have all started, and there's also some more. There's a Makers alumni who are working now on some Agile Ventures projects, and yeah, so there's quite a lot going on there. Yeah, quite a few of them have started on local support, and I guess the big thing is an ongoing conversation between myself and and Thomas about the sort of direction of the high-level Agile Ventures community, which yeah, I mean, I think that yes, anyway, there's. I think the upshot of it is that what we don't particularly have at the moment is we don't have anybody in a position with the time to take strong responsibility on the the project management side of Agile Ventures. And so while we've got a few people working individually on different features for Agile Ventures, it's sort of a little bit we don't have anybody running high-level coordination meetings for that, and so we kind of ideally need to find somebody who can fulfill that role, as well as sort of continuing to forge the strategic vision about what Agile Ventures does. Which I think we've had some good conversations on that in the last couple of days. In some ways, the key thing I think is we seem to be reasonably good at attracting developers in and charities in. It may be that what we really need to be doing is attracting in more project managers and people who are particularly interested in practicing being project managers.
Yeah, that's the most important, I think.
And I'm not really sure where these. I mean, Pavel has been somebody who's been very involved in the community as a project manager, and particularly in terms of practicing his project management skills more than practicing his programming skills. But I don't know. Anyway, my current idea is to do an emailing to the Agile Ventures group and kind of say, is anybody really interested in project management, and then sort of reach out to try and find what are the mailing lists that these people hang out on. Anyway.
Yeah. Right. This is all volunteer stuff at this point?
Yes, everything's volunteer. I mean, one of the things about the whole project is I feel sort of for the sustainability of Agile Ventures as a whole, that maybe we need to move to a footing where there is a small charge associated with maintaining your membership, or at least there's a premium membership thing where you get some additional thing. You appear higher in the members list, or similarly for charities, if charities want to list themselves as on the lookout for developers, then maybe they would pay some small fee to list in the system. And I worry at the moment about the very long-term sustainability in the absence of something like that, or some other kind of model. I'm not sure. Although maybe getting money involved in it is actually going to have a counterproductive effect. But yeah, what we've got at the moment is we've got lots of individual project. There's a number of new. See, there's like 5 new projects that we've got there, but we don't have kind of much coordination about the longer term direction of the entire site. Yeah.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm thinking of leaving my job and just focusing on a full project on Agile Adventures.
Well, that sounds excellent. Yes.
I just don't have the courage to do it.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Well, I personally have the courage. I just don't have the the financial resources.
Indeed.
So we should join them.
Maybe we should. Yeah, we should join them. You can pay me, and I'll make the courageous decisions.
Yeah, so that's very interesting, Christian. I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if you've spoken to John Morbacher, who's one of our, the Agile Venture guys, and he did leave his job and spent 9 months working almost solidly on the local support project, and then got a new job in New York City, and he's now a very highly paid developer in New York City, and he still contributes, in his spare time. So I think it can, it certainly takes courage to take that leap if you've got.
I'm thinking about it for over a month. Well, I don't know.
Sure, and no rush, absolutely, and just you'll certainly have every bit of support that I can give you. I'm what is happening at the moment is that Makers Academy and Agile Ventures had a dovetailing of goals in that Makers Academy is very keen on students doing Agile Ventures projects. So I'm going to continue to be very, very involved in the community for the foreseeable future, so that's solid on that side. But I think that at the moment, I can't be the project manager for local support and for Website 1. It's just not practical.
Of course.
In 6 months' time, maybe if we can, get dovetail things further, maybe that's something that we can do. But right now, I think I can't take on any more. Richard, you had a question?
The guy that took time off and got that high-paid job in New York.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, is your understanding, did he get that job partly out of the work that he did for the 9 months? I
believe so. I mean, that was his major coding experience, really.
Yeah.
I can vouch for that, because for the last month I've been working on Osra, and I learned so much from the guys and from the team and working together that I could take a job for Rails already. So it's great. I recommend to everybody to just join Agile Adventures.
Oh, well, Christian, we must get you added to the list of people. So this is actually here. I don't know if you can see this, Richard. But so we've got in our kind of grow page here, we've got quotes from different people like John Morbacher here about the experience of being with Agile Ventures and, having then got a job. We've got another one from E. Vivian there, Risa B., Brian Yap. There's quite a few people who, this is the problem we have, is people come along and they get very involved and they suddenly become very employable. And they end up being whisked away and having these. But then they kind of come back in their spare time and they bring enormous value back to the community because they've then been working in startups and big production companies and so on. And so their experience, the insight that they can then give back to the community is fantastically valuable. But I don't know if you've seen this page, Christian, but if you'd like to contribute like sort of a quote about your experience with Agile Ventures, I'd very, very, very pleased to add that there.
Would love to. Also, I mean to ask you about the GitHub group for Agile Adventures. Can I
yes.
Because I don't know how to do it. Do you have to add me? Because there's no button to.
Maybe. Then that's something we could do right now. Are you not in the team at some level on the? That's the wrong one. Hold on. Let's add you in there. See, I like doing these crossover things. We get new people to meet each other. So Agile Ventures teams there. Yes. Are you not? Are you not in the Osra team there?
Well, I should be. Why I'm not?
Yeah, maybe not. I can probably add you in there. Yeah. What's your like Razor CD, aren't you, or something?
Yeah.
That's you.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So you've been invited there. I think if you go to Agile Ventures Osra, you should get. I guess I hope I'm not now going to get in trouble for having invited you into the wrong community, but I assume that's okay.
You've got it. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Osra project is great. It would be. I was saying that we need to get more materials on what Osra has done and the Osra story, and try and get that out there. I think it's a wonderful project.
Yeah, we will do a presentation about it, but I think it would be wiser to just wait a little bit, because we are moving to Rails now, and it will be more interesting if we can do the presentation directly on the Rails application.
Okay. Oh, right. Did you not? I thought I thought it always was a Rails application.
Well, we are using ActiveAdmin.
Ah, okay. And now you're moving.
Yeah.
You're dropping the ActiveAdmin gem.
Yeah, exactly. I'm doing
yes.
everything 100% Rails.
Sure. Yes. Well, I mean, I think but both with and without. Well, the whole story of the whole project, I think, is. I mean, we should get a documentary film crew in there. Really, not that there's so much to film, but I mean, I think it's just a wonderful thing. And I know that all sorts of different working styles have been experimented with, and it's just fascinating. It's almost frustrating that I haven't been able to be more involved in it. But that's my own. It's wonderful, the whole process of that. But yes, anyway, so yeah, I'll just mention that in the Osra channel that I just added Razor to the Osra team on AV. That's okay. Yeah, cool. Anything else I can help you with at all at the moment, Christian?
I would like to talk about the Euro Scrum, because lately, I mean, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, only me and Norbert was there. So
right, sure.
how about joining it with the Atlantic Scrum?
Well, that's an idea. I mean, and that's something that we talked about previously. In some ways, the thing that worries me about changing it at the moment is an annoying thing, is that it's these introductory emails that we have sent out from Agile Ventures that say these are the times of the Scrum. So we've got various places in Agile Ventures where it talks about the times of the Scrums. One of them is in the About page, and that I can edit directly. But so, I think if we want to change the time, I mean we could talk about just. I mean, if you and Norbert can both make the Atlantic Scrum, then maybe we should just cancel the Euro Scrum for the moment. And I would be absolutely fine with that. I just would particularly like to make sure that the email that goes out to new people joining the community is updated to change that. I guess that's in principle, it's a relatively small pull request that could be done on the website one codebase, which even
And don't you want to rename the Atlantic Scrum to something else?
I don't know. I mean, I think I'd be tempted to, if we were keeping it at the same time, I wouldn't see any strong reason to rename it. I mean, given that we've got the Euro Asia Scrum, has got the Euro word in it. Do you know what I mean? So, but I think, let's have a look here. Excuse me. Let's see, console mailer.
Yeah. I don't mind to run the Euro Scrum, but mostly just me and
Norbert. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, the
subject to talk about it every day.
Sure. Yes. I mean, I think it's a shame. I mean, yes. I mean, I think it's fantastic that you are doing. Yeah. I mean, for me, recently, the Euro Asia Scrum tends to be me and Thomas or me and Lev. And we usually do have something to talk about. But absolutely, I think it makes, particularly if it makes more sense for me to be doing things at this time of day. So if you guys were both free at this time and you guys came to this one and we didn't worry about the Euro Scrum, then that would probably make more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what we could do, I mean, in some ways, what we could do there is we could sort of say that the Euro Scrum still exists, and we could say basically that currently, like how we do with the Pacific Scrum, that we say, watch out, no regular Scrum Master at present. I mean, this is the thing that frustrates me about the Agile Ventures platform, is the problem is that even if we add little notes to say that the Scrum is not present, then it still sort of picks up and says, it's live now, when no one's actually started it, which is another story.
Things that you said about rewriting the entire application.
Yeah, although some of these things, they could be fixed if we focused our efforts on fixing them for those particular things. I mean, I think if we agreed, for example, to do this and drop the Euroscrum from next week, I mean, in the first instance, the thing is to just make sure that the emails going out don't say, you know, this is a regular time, or at least they mention that there isn't a regular Scrum Master for the Euroscrum. And I just hate sending people information that says, oh, we're going to do this thing, and then actually we're not doing the thing. I think that gives people who are coming into the community just sort of sense of, well, there's not much point really. You know, if the things that they say turn out to be untrue on the first check, then it's, you know, my big fear is that the perception of unreliability just means that people are not interested in continuing to get engaged or involved. Yes, and I mean, you know, partly talking about the restart of doing it in a different project or in a different stack or what have you is partly, oh, well, maybe that would get some more developers excited about working on it. I have generally been worried that, you know, by having a large number of features, all of which are, you know, working to a certain degree, overall gives a more uneven and less attractive impression than if we had 2 or 3 features that worked really well and reliably. Although there are other things in play, so I think I'm starting to concede that for a lot of people joining scrums like this, it is terribly traumatic. Like it's a very frightening thing to kind of go online and start talking to other people from other parts of the world.
Yeah, I agree. It was for me too.
Yes. And what helped you get over the fear? What allowed you to come in?
I don't know. I found it pretty interesting and just slowly just joined at the beginning without saying anything. After time, I start to understand what's going on and
right. Yes.
Just push myself, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, you know, it's up to people to push themselves slightly. And what I worry is that sometimes we have things that get in their way in terms of, you know, like the page here not updating automatically about the fact. I mean, what I've seen doing all of these scrums over the course of a year and so on, whatever, is it's kind of we needed the ability for people to kind of indicate, you know, these are the scrums that I'm able to kind of handle, but also let people know at the last minute if they're not going to be able to run them and sort of hand them off to other people. And at the moment we've got that, you know, I've got, like you can see, I've got little notes in this About Us page, you know, to that effect. But that aspect, which I think is kind of a critical part of doing rolling scrums, is not kind of baked into the system. Yeah. But so, I mean, do we, you know, I would love to be seeing you and Norbert in the Atlantic Scrum. Do you, I think what we need to coordinate specifically would be an update to the email, if I can find it on Mailer, there we go. The welcome message. It's precisely this welcome message here. See, we've got this thing. Now, I guess, actually, even after this Scrum, I could try and submit a pull request. Should we have a deal that I will submit a pull request after this Scrum that will try and change this to indicate, you know, that the Euroscrum is not going to be available regularly, and as soon as that gets pulled in, then we can switch over to you guys coming to the Atlantic Scrum?
Yeah.
That sounds like a good plan, doesn't it? Yeah, good stuff. Nice one. Anything else from you, Christian?
No, all good.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm excited because I think that means maybe from next week or whenever this gets pulled in, you know, I can get to speak to you and Norbert more regularly. That'd be great.
Well, me and Norbert were having for the last 2 weeks the Euroscrum only on Monday.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no, maybe I'll just regularly see you on Monday. Yeah. Whenever you.
Well, I'll join us as often as I can.
Yeah. Whenever you're free, even once a week or yeah. I mean, it's that sort of. You know, I ran the Atlantic Scrum yesterday and nobody came. So, but yeah, if you guys come on Monday, that would be great.
Yeah. Good okay. Stuff. I'll talk to Norbert too.
Yeah. Nice one. Richard, you said you had a question.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer. I'm doing a projects class separate from the software engineering class. Think of it as the follow-on class.
Yes.
And we had some actual outside customers.
Yes, you mentioned.
Partners to the university.
Yes.
And 2 of those out of my 7 I just finished spring break, so my semester is halfway done. Two of those projects basically are not happening.
Okay.
So I'm looking for something where projects where my students in this other class can get up and running immediately.
Sure.
And I'm assuming that any of the stuff that you have going on is not going to be like that.
Well, when you say not going to be like that, I mean there are any number of things that are currently up and going and running that students could take part in.
Right, but my assumption is that it's going to take either it would take some effort on their part, like initiative, and the group that I have problems with, unfortunately, the two groups are people with a little less initiative.
Sure.
And I feel like with just 6 weeks left in the semester, I need to give them something like, here's, just try working on this. And we can't really go through what is the real educational process of sort of speaking with clients and figuring out what needs to be done and doing all the trade-offs.
No. But I mean to the extent that they could just join an existing project where there's an existing customer, where they've got existing developers who are working on something, that might make some sense. I mean, I certainly hear what you're saying about what all these teams need. And actually, I've got a friend here who's working with another UK university, and he's saying he's got this group of students, and he's saying, I just need somebody to kind of spend some time with these students, just sort of make sure that they're on the right track and doing the right thing. I mean, what everybody really wants for a group of students who are not necessarily taking initiative is you want someone to come in and say, sort of do this and this, and kind of sort of shepherd them in a sort of general direction to help them have a good outcome.
Right.
But
my thought, I mean, like I said, it's like in a new, I mean, unless you said somehow I'm wrong about, my expectation, I think it's would be too risky. We're doing something at the beginning of the semester for sure, but we're not. One of the things that I'm thinking of doing, and I'll leave it at this, is basically taking an existing system and say, hey, replicate this.
Oh, okay.
And then this way there's no problem in getting started, and then as they start to replicate it, if they get into it, then I can talk with them and say, hey, let's do this or this other thing better, or features to leave out. But that would make a clear specification. That's what I think is probably the
that sounds like a very safe fallback. I mean, I'm just going to mention what we've got. The projects that have recently started up and are active in Agile Ventures. So we've got here one day. And this was with a client in Barcelona, and it's a group of My Makers Academy students who've just finished, built a system to help young people get in touch with work experience placements. We've got Oodles, which is a project that was started by a group of Maker students who graduated 6 weeks ago, and they're carrying on, which is about hooking up places that have got excess food with charities that can consume them. We've got some other ones here. This is the one for sort of student engagement. That's another team that was from 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So there's several of these things that are kind of there, and then you've got
it looks like Roses.
Binghamton University Bike Share. We've got the OSRA project, which is the one that Christian has been involved in that we were talking about earlier, and we've got my local support project, which I've got quite a few students in. I mean, so they would be welcome. The key thing would be, as Rose has done, is just get the students into the Agile Ventures Slack and say, hey, join the Slack channels and hang out and chat and get inducted. But as you say, I think if the students have low initiative and low enthusiasm, then there's a mixed level of benefit that they'll get from that.
Right, and I thought I probably would have pursued this more, but because we had these actual physical customers here, I figured let me go with what the university has.
No, I think having access to a physical customer nearby is, I mean, that's what we're doing with Makers Academy. Actually one of them is in Barcelona, but we've had this charity jamboree where the local charities come in and they pitch to the students, and then they can talk to the students face to face, and that's just much easier for students if they can talk to a person face to face and draw things on a whiteboard and stuff.
Okay, but that's just throw that out just in case.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is the thing. In some ways, it links back to what we started on. Is in some ways what we need with Agile Ventures is a way of attracting people who want to be project managers, who would take incoming recruits, whether they be from your course or from Rose's course or what have you, and kind of kind of get on just sort of like helping them with that early stage, what do I do sort of thing. And we need to find the where do the budding project managers of the world hang out? This is the question that I'm trying to ask
people
them.
who need people who need experience in that, because
in project management things, yes.
Right, because that's the idea that they would be doing this on a volunteer basis, presumably to leverage like people get with developers' job. In fact, that reminds me. As far as I'm concerned, we can end on this.
Yeah.
I got the sense about a year ago that maybe you were thinking that Rails was not as hot as and is that I just came up with what Christian was talking about is that is that still the way that you see it, that it's
well, I think that what we see is that there's been a big explosion in JavaScript stack stuff. And from Makers Academy, what my placement people tell me is that almost nobody in London is hiring Rails developers. They all want to hire people with JavaScript skills, and so it's certainly a matter of some debate. It's something that we debate in Agile Ventures. I think there's many people still making a good living from doing Rails-related work, but I wonder. I don't know. There's kind of the whole JavaScript stack is still somewhat, what's the word? It's still slightly unstable. It's still sort of growing. I think there's a lot of strange things happening. Rails has a degree of stability. Ruby has, I think, more stability. So it's kind of, I think it's still in a situation where it could go either way. And I know for example, one of Makers Academy's competitors is General Assembly in London, and they're also in New York. And they, at least in London, they do Rails, and they say, well, we do Rails not because people are going to get jobs in Rails, they probably aren't, but they're going to, it's a learning environment. It's a toy that you learn about the complexity of these systems, and then you go on and you get a job in Angular, for example. Whereas other, there are several boot camps in the States that are now doing full JavaScript stack, and because they're being led where the jobs are. So yeah, it continues to go that way. Although the lack of a kind of real stable alternative to Rails, I think hindered. Like now we're hearing Angular is somehow being involved with Microsoft, and they're going to switch over to TypeScript, and it's kind of like, oh my god, that's like not. And so people are getting excited about React and Ember, but it's I had thought a year ago that by now we'd kind of see a winner in terms of the JavaScript framework, but we haven't yet really, or at least if there is one, it's not clear to me. So yeah, that's where we are.
Right, that's sort of exactly the kind of thing that I wanted to hear, and it sounds like there might be more Rails opportunities where I am. If you say there's very little in London, but,
well, it's interesting. I think what there is when they're not, junior developers are not being hired as Rails developers. So I think the interesting thing, I think for people coming out of university and people coming out of boot camps, saying that they know Rails is not necessarily such a big win, although there might be some startups that are still willing to use Rails. I think there are, Rails still has the things going for it that it always did in terms of prototyping things quickly, and it's a useful thing to be able to have mastered and be able to deploy something. And there's a lot of Rails legacy code out of there. And I think that experienced Rails developers, if we talk about people who've got more than 2 or 3 years of experience with Rails, will continue to be hired to maintain all of that existing Rails bloatware. A bit like the COBOL programmers are still being hired.
Oh, no.
So it's but I think a lot of the the junior developers, what people are trying to hire, at least what we're seeing is the junior developers are being hired for JavaScript skills, and a lot of the new builds of systems are being done in JavaScript.
Interesting. So I wonder how that. That's a further question, is of how that would play in speaking with the Berkeley folks, but that's a whole other conversation.
Well, absolutely, yes. It'll be interesting to see. Yes, it's fascinating. I think it's a big step forward that Armando's done the the new Sinatra stuff in the latest version of the course. And to be honest, I think in some ways, I think that the interesting thing is I don't know that one even needs Rails. I'm not sure that for many things that Rails is the essential thing. It seems to me more that Sinatra is the sensible middle, or there's about 6 other Sinatra competitors like Hobbit and Cube and this and the other that one could be using, and the Ruby ecosystem continues to be very, very rich. But Armando does seem to be quite. I think he doesn't really get or doesn't believe in JavaScript on the server side. I think he feels that the the processing model for JavaScript just doesn't kind of make sense to put like it's kind of the sort of non-blocking what have you. I don't know. I mean, I did I did the Makers Node week a couple of weeks back, and I really enjoyed being in Node, although it made me very angry in certain places. But there's ever since doing the startup engineering course, Node with JavaScript allows you to just deploy crazily simply small amounts of stuff. There's this whole microservices thing, and there's kind of there's this argument that I like from the startup engineering side, which is just about really you shouldn't be prototyping all these systems. Like Rails is kind of like quite a heavyweight to sort of like boom, 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 here's all the database and all these forms and this, that, and the other, to build a system when kind of really it should be all about working out, do you need to code any of that? It should be all about building the absolute lightest weight landing page that explores the market to see if people are interested in a value proposition of a particular kind, of kind of wireframing a sequence of user experience. I mean, sequences of user experience. I mean, tools like Zapier now, which you can basically use Zapier to connect to other API systems. So I'm just looking at this thing. I'm sort of connecting up so that new YouTube videos. Actually, I'm doing it. By the way, you're part of an experiment here. I'm just setting up on Zapier to see if the Agile Ventures videos can be automatically posted to the Agile Ventures Slack channel, but using specifically this Zapier tool. So there's kind of I think and there's starting to be tools now where you can, a lot of stuff that you might have had to program in the past,
right,
you can just using a series of existing services and a third-party tool like Zapier to connect them up. You can build, an experiment with, is this way of connecting things with this workflow, is that going to help us achieve our business processes without writing any code at all?
Yeah, which fits into the philosophy of the course, but not necessarily the mechanics and the details.
Yes. I mean, I still think it's back to front. I still think, and I say the same for the Makers course, is it seems to me that rather than teaching people first to code in Ruby, what one should be teaching is first to think about problem solving and about the, what is the user experience, what is the business process that needs to be supported here, and how can we go about thinking this, that, and the other, and sort of, in some ways, coding should be kind of the thing of last resort. The problem about teaching the coding first is it's sort of getting you all set up to say, right, I'm going to be solving a lot of problems with coding, when actually, no. Maybe that makes it a systems analysis course, although what I really like about the, our setup is about going in, the system analysis seems to fall short of the full sort of testing and then development of the domain model in a way that's responsive to, the needs at the front end. I want to see a full stack course, but that sort of comes in from the systems analysis angle, but then goes all the way down through Cucumber into RSpec, into the unit testing with the continuous integration and this, that, and the other, and so on. Maybe one day I will build it. Actually, the somewhat radical thing that I've made this somewhat radical proposal to the Makers Academy people, which is to basically remove all the lectures completely.
Okay.
And they've kind of said yes, which is kind of scary. And so from next week we've got our new cohort starting, and what are we doing? Basically, we're actually treating our people. They're just coming in. It's like they're going to be developers, right? They're going to come in. They're going to scrum in like groups of 8 every morning with a coach liaison, and then they're going to get straight into pair programming. And that's basically they're going to be working 96 every day. Scrum, the scrum in the morning, scrum in the afternoon. Coding. Micro breakout sessions from their scrum if they're asking for them. But basically, just strip out the lectures and do it that way.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Okay, so I will sign off. I have a faculty meeting. My issue as always is like, will the Berkeley people be like moving in their direction because of their inertia? And then if that's the horse that I'm sort of like hooked up to.
Indeed.
I have mixed feelings about it. But,
Indeed.
okay.
Indeed. Well, and we'll see. It's all to play for in the next few months as we see whether Armando pulls something else out of the hat, or indeed whether we can give you an alternative in terms of
right. And actually,
system.
for next fall, assuming I'm still doing this teaching gig, I have set up to have 3 sections of this class, 100. So like on the order of 150 students, and so over the summer I'll as I always say, but rarely do, is I'll be interested in trying to figure out like the right way to handle things.
Yeah, okay. Just get them all in Slack. That'll be my last word.
And I will pursue that among other things once May starts to come around. Okay.
Nice one. All right. Well, maybe catch up with you next week. Thanks, Richard.
Very good. Bye.
All right. Good.
Take
nice
care.
to.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Christian. Glad like you could meet Richard there. Yeah, Christian, I'll catch up with you. Maybe Monday next week, or whenever you're around.
Sure.
All right. Bye for now.
Take care. Bye.